Talk about the game this weekend. You've played in a lot of these games.
Yep.
What is the thing about coaching in the Super Bowl that people don't tell you about? Is it the
Yeah.
week leading up about all of the ridiculousness that's happening outside the building? What is it about coaching in the Super Bowl?
You know what? You're probably spot on. I think there's a lot. There's a lot of aspects to this game that are just different. Certainly when you're home for the first week of preparation, the early part of the week you're dealing with tickets, you're dealing with hotel rooms, you're dealing with family, basically anything that's like not important to the game. And then you go and you get back into those 3 or 4 days of practice, which is just grind it out, put the game plan in, get ready to go. You get down here for the most part. The first day, the media part of it's great. You start to feel the energy. Then you go back to practice, and then really Thursday night is about when the families come into town. You start to feel the intensity of the Super Bowl, and then the biggest part of the game that I think you don't realize is the game is actually 2 separate games. There's the first half and the second half. The ebbs and flows of the game are something that you don't have any experience of in the regular season. The first half, there's commercial breaks, there's ball exchanges coming in and out, there's all those things that just break up the game, and then you get to the second half and it feels like a normal game. The rhythm of the game's back to normal, and you have to be able to coach it that way. 2 different types of games and how you're going to approach that.
Do you ever think like Kyle Shanahan, for instance, he only had to throw the ball 8 times against the Packers to win that game. Do you think as a defensive guy, this guy is probably sitting on 4 to 5 trick plays that they could potentially pull out of their ass because this is the last game. They're not going to sit on him for the rest of the offseason.
Sure.
Is that something you have to think about? And how do you even think about preparing for something like that?
Well, there's no doubt, and it's 2 weeks of preparation. So, you have 2 weeks to prepare. There's definitely something on tape that either you've given up or they've seen. They might have saw it in college football. It might be something that they're kind of working on that they say, hey, this is something we might have to pull out and use in the game that they're not going to be prepared for. And, you just as a defensive guy at that point, you have to just trust that your rules, your fundamentals are going to be able to handle it. Your players are going to be able to recognize it and go. But I think Kyle, knowing him very well, I think he does a phenomenal job with the game plan. And given, knowing Jimmy and just, letting Jimmy play the game that he can play to win that week. It'll be different last week than it is this week.
Well, hello there. Utilize the promo code PAYTHEBILLS and get $20 off your first order from SeatGeek. Now, back to the magic.
Okay, the old cliche is defense wins championships.
Absolutely.
But, hey, no, Matt. No. The rules have changed the game. The rules have changed the game in favor of the offense. It's a fantasy football world.
When did that? In the real game or fantasy? What are we talking about? Because I think
in the real world.
If you go back and look at number 1 defenses versus number 1 offenses or number 1 offenses in general in the Super Bowl, right? Scoring offenses, defenses, check that stat out.
So you're saying the Niners have a win here this week?
I'm not saying who's going to win.
We're
just going off some data.
So you're saying what I say, and this is my actual belief. My actual belief is that with the way the modern world is with the offenses, and I mean, fantasy football has impacted it. So has health, I believe.
Sure.
Opening up the middle of the field a little bit, more seams and stuff like that. I feel like the game is more shaped towards an offensive style of football.
Well, as a defensive coach, I would say the rules are probably slanted that way. Right?
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
I would say points are important. I think people like to see high-scoring games if you're on that side of the ball. So certainly
But you're saying if you have a smothering defense, it doesn't matter.
I think it doesn't change. I think if you can run the ball, you can stop the run. If you can do those things in playoff football and in championship football, you're going to put yourself in position to win.
Still. I bet so much money on the Chiefs. Why did you not tell me?
Well, listen, if Mahomes can run and they get that,
okay.
so
and they stopped Derrick Henry last week.
I mean, that's the deal. So you'll be all right.